to the Good evening and welcome to the City of Gloucester Open Space and Recreation Committee. My name is Heidi Wakeman and I am the chairperson. Consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. In the event that a live transmission proves unworkable for any reason, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the meeting will be made available on the city's website as soon as possible. Can you scroll down, Greg?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Items may be heard out of listed order. Again, my name is Heidi Wakeman. I'm the chairperson, and I'll begin with a roll call of all who are present at this meeting. Dan Morris.
Present.
Mark Poulin.
Present.
Noel Mann. Noel, can you unmute and just let us know you're here? Noel, can you just say present or let us know that you're here verbally? Member Mann, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Noel, can you just say hello or say
hello? Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Great.
Here,
Liam,
present.
terrific. Liam Anastasia Murphy.
I'm present. Sorry, my video is not working.
Okay.
So that's why. And then also, Dave Sargent is in the waiting room.
Okay, I was thinking that might happen,
Terrific.
and I will promote him in.
Okay. And also joining us is member Dave Sargent.
Here, it seems to be a recurring problem. You're not being promoted as a panelist.
Okay, we'll get that figured out. Okay, and also joining us from the City of Gloucester is Greg Catamatori, Gemma Wilkins, and from the MAPC, Courtney Lewis. Okay, and I do want to say thank you for joining us today. We have very clear items to get through on our agenda, and we are going to take an item out of order due to some member commitments. And that first item is the discussion of ADA site visits. So if we want to get started on that, I believe either Gemma or Courtney can introduce that topic or follow up from last month's meeting.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to talk a bit about the ADA site assessments and hopefully confirm, get a number of confirmed participants for doing the site visits. So I sent out a few dates a while back to see when we could set up a day to do the ADA assessment, and we confirmed next Monday, June 27th. We've basically, because Gloucester has so many sites, we basically have blocked off the entire day from 9 to 5 next Monday to visit each site, fill out the ADA assessment worksheet, which is found in the ADA assessment starts on page 67 of the workbook, and then they have a template worksheet that can be used to assess each site. the goal of that, this is a required section of for the OSRP. It's broken up into 3 different parts. The first part is the administrative requirements, and it's basically just documentation of the city's designated ADA coordinator, the city's grievance policies and procedures, and the public notice requirements. Section 2 is the inventory, which is what we have set up the assessment day for, where we go to the DCS requires that all properties under the jurisdiction of the Parks and Recreation Department and the Conservation Commission be visited and assessed for ADA accessibility. As I said, there's a standard worksheet that's used. I'll show you what that looks like. Am I able to share my screen? Oh, yeah. No, it says that it's disabled. Is it possible to?
You should be able to now.
Okay. Okay. So this is what the worksheet looks like from the workbook. It is pretty extensive. Not all sections of the worksheet will apply to every site. It's usually sites with that have facilities that have to be assessed. So most conservation areas without like walking trails or parking areas are listed as part of the inventory, but not necessarily they don't necessarily have to be assessed for the plan. Let's see. So as part of the assessment, we will be, like I said, taking notes on these worksheets, and these sheets are usually compiled and copied and incorporated into the final plan, but it's usually not this worksheet that makes it to the final plan. We usually have like a more summarized list that kind of lists every site and what facilities exist there, what features and facilities exist there. Sometimes we'll have a picture. It's not necessary, but I think these are helpful when you're trying to call out things like issues with pavement, pooling or drainage issues on fields, broken, rusted, or dangerous playground equipment, or cracked, uneven, or deteriorated paths. And that's basically the bulk of section 2. And then part 3 is just the city's employment practices. And that's usually just a form that's included into the final plan. So I will stop there and see if there are questions. The plan was that we would divide up the sites depending on the number of the number of members and volunteers that we had that could come out next week, and kind of divide and conquer. And then I would take all that information, compile it, and then write up the summary for that. So I'll just stop there and see if there are any questions about the process. Yes, Noel?
Am I muted still?
No, we can hear you.
I wonder, does the inventory include facilities that are are privately owned or conservation areas?
No, no privately owned properties.
Just all city?
Anything under the jurisdiction of the city and the Conservation Commission. And that also, well, not even the city, specifically the Parks and Recreation Department, which is technically the DPW in Gloucester. But that does not include school properties or properties owned or managed by like the water department, for instance. Yes.
Okay, I'll go. What time exactly and where exactly are we meeting? Are we bringing our own vehicles, and can you provide the forms?
Yes. So we will be meeting at 9 o'clock at the Town Hall Annex. And yes, we'll have to rely on everyone bringing and driving their own vehicles. And I can and will provide the assessment form. And I'll also just state that Gemma has put together an RSVP for next Monday so that we get a better sense of how many people we have, and then how we'll divide up the sites for that day.
May I say that if we have a quorum for any site, we would likely be discussing that. And therefore, I believe it would have to be noticed under the open, public, participation. I think would have to be noticed. I think we have to be careful not to have a quorum at any particular site. Otherwise, we may be in conflict of the open space meeting, the open meeting law.
We can certainly make sure that we'll see how many folks we have participating, also how many members of the committee we have participating, and we'll keep that in mind when we kind of set up the groups that will do the assessment. So thanks for that, Dave.
Yeah, Mark Poulin.
So I was hoping that we'd have an understanding of the amount of area to cover before we knew how many people we needed. I have no idea. Are we talking, dozens of places, tens or dozens? I can't, I'm not available. I was, but until my son, I have a mandatory orientation event at my son's school, so I can't participate. But what I was wondering was how long will this take? Do we need to reach out to more people? I think we had a question last meeting, whether or not we'd reach out to, could we reach out to, say, kids in the school, or does it have to be done by committee members or that kind of thing? So I was just looking at the whole, just kind of taking a step back and looking at it from a scope of work perspective.
Speak to that a little bit. So certainly we would love the help of having you invite people, and I'm hoping, I was working on an RSVP today, but I'd like to create one that's like a link that's shareable, so you can share it with anyone who you think would be interested in attending and helping out with this. So certainly the more hands, the lighter the work. I'm currently working on filtering the open space inventory to get to a list of parcels, but it's certainly going to be a much smaller portion. It's not the over 1,000 parcels that are in the inventory. It's just those with facilities that are specifically controlled by the DPW. And then even there's some that have to come off because they're not accessible to the public. So I'm working on that now, and I should have a better idea of it soon. So I'll follow up in an email with details about that, as well as the RSVP.
And the second question, I think, is to Courtney, was I thought I read on page 70 something of the workbook that that we had to have somebody with a disability or something like that as part of some assessment. I read that somewhere in one of the pages. It can't just, And so I wonder how that works with each group going around and doing things. Does somebody have to have somebody with a certain, I don't know if it's with a disability or representing somebody with a group of, I have to look at the language again. I read it last week. It was in the
So-
workbook.
Yeah, so they have to be in someone that advocates for people with disability has to be involved in the process. That doesn't mean that they have to physically be and visit every site. I've done site visits where it's just MAPC staff. Some communities have done it where they hire a private consultant because they're doing all city or town owned facilities outside of the OSRP, and the assessment of the open spaces just get incorporated into that. What it says in the workbook is that someone, like I said, who represents or advocates for people with disability has to be involved in the process. And that could be, that's usually the ADA, the designated ADA coordinator for the municipality. And they basically just review the assessment forms and any summarized information and provide any additional input, because they would be able to highlight or they would be able to highlight any additional barriers or considerations for recommendations to specific sites.
Let me say I have a physical disability. But my understanding is that the building inspector is the ADA compliance officer.
For this exercise.
But he's designated for the city.
Okay.
And I would also say we've done, Public Works has done some assessments also of public properties. So I think once we have the information compiled, we can certainly internally circulate that to make sure that there's any other suggestions. Because again, I was mentioning this to Heidi. I mean, this may be something that also leads to potential projects of, if we find particular deficits, in some of these sites that could be improved, it's a great, potential project for, an open space project in the future. So we'll be sure that I think the data collection is okay. But then we'll also kind of run it through those channels as well after we have it assembled.
Good, thanks.
And yes, I just want to say that the workbook has a lot of really good information. I know we're at the end of our process, but with this ADA procedures, I think it's on page 74, Mark. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The language is that someone with disabilities needs to be involved with the inventory specifically. So my question is, so we meet at 9 and then we break up, but like maybe somebody's available not right at 9, or they could come from 1 to 3 or a couple of hours in the day. So might that be a possibility to have RSVPs for a couple of hours instead of 8?
Yeah, that is, I believe that's how Gemma was structuring the RSVP form. And also in that, like, we're asking them to provide a contact number so that if someone has said that they're available for that day, they'll have my contact information, I'll have their contact information. We can coordinate and check in, and I can direct them to the right site or group to meet up with.
Yeah, because when I just think about parks or playgrounds, parks, beaches, there's a lot. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
There. Like there's a lot. And if you look at all of the questions and the checklist, so it doesn't seem like it happens very quickly, although maybe once you do a couple, or maybe some places like Plum Cove Beach, it's small. There's not like you're there and then it's over. So, or it doesn't.
Yeah, I think we'll kind of get a sense of how it goes once we have the list. And it also might be an opportunity of being like kind of train the trainer. Once people have done some of them, we're probably not going to get through everything in one day. And then, we'll kind of complete as we can. And it might be that if people can provide more time on their own time, they can go out and do a visit and then provide the information back. So
Yeah.
I have a feeling that Gemma and I will be spending some time around Gloucester in the field over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Which
and if
is
we could
fine.
do it, if we could do something like we do at the meeting minutes, just have a sign up sheet, and we could check off what got done on Monday, because I'm more than willing, I'm coming back on Wednesday, but I'm more than willing to pick up some of the slack.
Yep, that sounds great.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or anything else so we should be looking for an RSVP and some more information in our emails from Gemma prior to Monday, so we can plan and also just let her know who's available, and then something shareable with potential volunteers who are not part of the committee, but who want to help in this capacity. Does that sound right? Great. Okay, great. Thank you, Courtney.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to go back in my order of my agenda, and let's see. I want to, before too long, I wanted to approve minutes from whatever we have. I think, or I'm not sure if that's the best way. I know a couple of people have to leave at 7, so we've got public comments, next steps for the plan, and then I wrote Open Space and Recreation Committee staffing update. So I'm wondering if now's a good time to do minutes and review, or shall we move into the public comments aspect? I need some guidance from the rest of yeah, Dan.
You're muted.
Yeah.
By public comments, do you mean item 4, the business, which is public comments on the open space plan, or the?
Yeah. Yeah, public comments on the open space plan. Yeah.
I would vote for doing that next.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think your meetings, your last meeting, if it's, is it more of the old meetings or some of the more recent ones that you were going to review minutes?
It's both.
A mix
I
and
think
match.
it's
Yeah.
Okay.
like 3
Yeah,
sets.
in the interest of having everybody in one place,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
it would make sense to try to take up the public comment on the plan.
Okay.
We did 9, I think we did 9 sets of minutes last meeting. It took a long time. I think we only had 3 sets to review anyway. But we could probably get to it later.
Okay.
If we
Heidi, I promised to review my records for meetings in the 2019s. There are 4 missing minutes, and I don't think we met that many times.
Okay.
Is there a way of checking that? I mean, I went through my address book. I didn't find any agendas with notes on them, period. And went through my notebook, and there were a number of cancellations.
I can coordinate with you, Noel, because all of the agendas are posted to the city website. So they're all listed out, so we can kind of see if there are any gaps.
Well, there are 4
Yeah.
gaps.
Yeah, I can give you a
But I
listing of
don't
all
think
the
we-
meetings that were conducted.
I think we only had 1 meeting in the whole of 2019.
Okay.
That would not surprise me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Noel and Greg will coordinate about that. And then I
Thanks.
think that it's 6:28 now, and so we do have, we did receive 4, not 4 comments. We did hear from 4 different people of comments in the official grid of comments, and I hope everybody had a chance to look at them in the Google Drive. And then our goal tonight is to determine if to incorporate them into the plan. So maybe there's a way to bring the comments up, or is that probably the best thing to do?
Yeah, I have it set up for you. So
Okay.
just a brief update with the state. So the draft plan was submitted to the state.
Mhm.
As many of you know, it was just under with the appendices and the additional maps and documentation of public participation. The plan came in just under 300 pages. I have not gotten a comment letter back from DCS yet, but this is a really busy time for them. They are in the middle of FY23 grant rounds. And so I'm hoping that I'll get something very soon. As soon as I do, I'll notify everyone and also share. It's usually a bulleted a letter with bullet points on areas within the plan that need to be addressed for final approval. So as soon as I get that, I'll share that with the group. So as far as the public comments, we ended up receiving 24 comments in total. I've kind of just reorganized them into a matrix where it just pulls over the information that was listed from each individual page. And also I've added a column for the OSR for the committee to provide comments or to address a specific comment. I've also just added briefly my thoughts on a few of the comments and notes. And so I'm happy to kind of walk us through any of those. So can everyone see the screen or?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first comment was there was a comment about an organization, Cape Ann Trail Stewards, being removed from the plan and replaced with the Watershed Summer Crew program. And my only comment for that was that I think we should leave it because it is a functioning and existing organization. And I think this is easily addressed by simply adding the other organization to the list as well.
Does this other organization actually exist?
I have not done research on the Summer Crew program, so that this was just what was listed in the comment. I leave all the final decision lies with the committee. So many of these things are going to be to your discretion and advice.
Yes, I think we should get back to Jeff Brown and ask him to provide more details of this program. I've never heard of it.
I think it was discontinued.
Well, it didn't exist in the 90s either. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I don't know, and I did not research I don't know that we have a watershed foreman either, or I'm not sure. So I am hesitant. I agree with leaving in Cape Ann Trail Stewards as an existing and beneficial partnership with the city of Gloucester, or partner. And I don't know that it needs to be replaced. My opinion is to see if that we can research. I mean, I could look right on the website right now, but I don't want to shift my attention that, if somebody looked up on City of Gloucester Watershed Foreman Summer Crew program, I don't believe that is something that is in existence right now. Maybe it can come back, perhaps.
No,
yeah.
because it has never existed.
Okay.
It's
How
an
about-
invention of Jeff Brown's.
How about barring any confirmation of a similar program run by Public Works, comment received?
Yes.
Nice.
Okay. So the next comment was about exempting Dogtown from the plan. And my only comment is that DCS requires all parks and open spaces under the jurisdiction of the Recreation Department and the Conservation Commission to be listed in the plan. And so I would advise against, I don't believe we would get an approved plan by eliminating that site. So those are my thoughts on it.
I think you had the wording correctly at the beginning. You said like we have to include it per the guidelines of the workbook or something like that. That's always, we can't, it has to be included, and just leave it at that.
Dan, you have your hand raised, so go ahead, Dan Morris.
Well, it's a rather thin rationale that's provided here, suggesting that Dogtown is a natural wilderness. And I think it's been something other than natural for decades and even centuries. It is in character a great deal like the other spaces that are included on the on the inventory. I would be worried about capitulating to this request, because it seems that I could say, well, I live next to West Gloucester Woods, and that's a natural wilderness, and I don't want that in the plan. And it's also, we could get a little silly about it and suggest that exempting, anything that someone objects to being in a plan. Perhaps the Waterways Commission should not talk about the Annisquam River. I don't know. So it just seems that this is not robust rationale. And so I don't think we should support this at all.
At all. I'd like to point out that leaving it in its natural wilderness condition, over the last decade, we've lost a lot of biodiversity, including blueberries.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts?
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I appreciate the comments from Dan and Noel, and I appreciate the language that you have, Courtney, which is very succinct. And so is there a way to combine Dan's comment or response with Courtney's comment with Noel's? Is there a way to do that in that little box?
Yeah. I technically, I think the proper response would go something like, we appreciate, thank you for your comment. We appreciate your input on the plan. Per the requirements of DCS, all parks and
Yeah.
And I think that would be an appropriate response to that comment.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
will you type that in now, or is that forthcoming, or is that not how this goes? Like, is that something that you can type in there right now, Courtney? Or should we just say that and then move on to the next one?
I can type, but I want to wordsmith it
Okay.
just a bit.
Yeah, I think in the interest, the clear direction that we all need is whether or not you think there needs to be any modification or revision of the plan. If not, we can provide, a cleaned up version of this with how the comments have been addressed by the committee.
Okay, that sounds clear.
All right, the next comment is, in my opinion, just an opinion. It has to do with conservation restrictions and that just a statement that they shouldn't be held by private land trusts. But yeah, that that kind of defeats the point and purpose of conservation restrictions. Municipalities can hold conservation restrictions, and private nonprofit land trusts whose mission and focus is conservation and preservation of
Yes.
open spaces.
So again, thank you for your comment
Yeah,
or comment received, and thank you. Thank you for your thank you for your comment.
If I may.
Yeah, Dan.
Just for the record, I would like as a member of the committee to say that I do not support this recommendation of the commenter. I think it would be incredibly stifling not to be able to engage in the conservation restriction partnerships that we've enjoyed, and we have several, or at least two really robust, financially robust, and organizations that have excellent management records and excellent conservation records and have been good partners with the city. And so I think it would be really short-sighted to adjust our relationships with them such that they could not hold the conservation restrictions. And I would not want to curtail any future negotiations with them on future partnerships in the future.
and to add to Dan's comment, it actually, any conservation restriction held by a land trust has to pass through the council of the relevant municipality.
Thank you for that, Dan and Noel. Okay, moving
All right.
on.
All
Yeah.
right. The next comment was about removing Dogtown Preservation Commission from removing any mention of that commission from the plan. And for that, I really have no comment. I leave that to the discretion of the committee, but I think I would advise against it.
Anybody want to weigh in on this?
I think it's similar
Go
to
ahead,
comment number one.
Yep.
It's similar responses, comment number one.
Noel or Dave or Dan or Liam, any feedback about please remove Dogtown Preservation Commission from this plan?
Not possible.
Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's not possible. It is, Dogtown is part of the inventory, and this commission is a fully sanctioned and functioning commission of the city administration. Why on earth would we remove it?
Yeah.
There's no rationale provided.
And I would
Yeah,
also
I agree.
say-
You should keep it in.
I would also just say that their aim is not to restore, or the comment says they aim to restore, in quotes, Dogtown, not preserve it. And as has been mentioned, Dogtown is ever changing. It does not look like it did 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago. And what I understand of my communication with Dogtown Preservation Commission and the volunteers that serve there is that they love and care about this part of Gloucester, and they want to do the right thing by this important part of our community. So.
All right. So this is a new set of comments from a different contributor. She mentions that she requests listing. Oh, I'm sorry. The commenter requests that the objectives be listed under the goals in the summary section of the plan. Again, I leave this to the discretion of the committee. This is normally the format of the plans is to simply list the goals, and then you kind of unpack the goals and objectives later on in the plan. So to not take up additional real estate and to not repeat ourselves, I think we should leave it as is, but I'm happy to make adjustments if this group sees fit.
I don't.
I don't see a need to change it. I think it's a personal opinion, and I don't know that if it's easy, we want our people to have it easy to read. We want them to be able to read it. But I also think if there is a place, a dedicated place in the plan for the goals and objectives, you just go to the table of contents and go to that page. So
Just a quick
Dan.
suggestion, if I may. Would it be possible in the executive summary to state the page number that the objectives are on? And that shouldn't take up the real estate or create a reorganization issue. And it would seem perhaps help this commenter connect the two.
I think that's a good compromise and a helpful suggestion to meet the commenter's needs, easier to read and understand, but also minimize the rewriting. And it could be as simple as, goals listed in a parentheses after, or page numbers in the introduction. So I think that's a great idea.
All right. Next comment or next statement is about including a key that shows the definition of responsible parties and potential funding sources. And I simply noted that that information is listed on page 277. The comment was about the action plan matrix listing the funding sources, and that the abbreviations for the funding sources and responsible parties in those two columns, but they're listed in the introduction to that section further up.
So how would we respond to that? Just a similar thing, like we have, we do have a key provided. Thank you for your comment, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Thank you for your comment. A defined list of responsible parties and potential funding sources are listed on page whatever.
Yeah. 277. Yeah. I'll read the next comment just in the interest of time, if that's okay with you, Courtney.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm fine
Yep.
with that.
Yeah, so it says, could you create a sub-objective to come up with clear investments to mitigate the risks within sub-objective 3C1 with a frequency of publication/review? I understand 3C2 speaks to prioritizing investments, but nowhere is the investment decision process mapped out. So when someone asks the question, what are we doing to mitigate the overuse, inappropriate use of any of our beaches or open space? You can say, here is our investment plan prioritized. If this is already done, then attach it to the plan to show the backlog and prioritization of investments.
I think it's like a fine idea, but it seems a little bit granular for like the context of the plan in some ways. Like the plan is really long and detailed, but this seems like it's we weren't getting, it's not like we were planning out exactly what we were going to invest in, right? It's more like we're getting an idea, getting priorities aligned, and then doing that. So I think it's a fine thing to want in the plan, but seems maybe slightly more granular than we want to get into.
My question to you, or other people that are more experienced with this, is that typical to have investment strategies within the plan? Or is this person asking for something just for more information to answer the question, say, here's our investment plan? Like Courtney or Greg or?
I'm thinking they're asking for more specificity then we should really be, looking for it in the open space plan. What we're setting up as priorities and guidance, and it's up to other people to deal with more specific, ways of accomplishing this.
I agree.
Yeah, and I felt like it was almost a little cart before the horse. Like, how do you, if this plan is going to be submitted to the city as a recommendation of priorities, it's asking, for, just kind of show the backlog and prioritization ahead of it, or at the same time. Like, one has to happen first, I think, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I think an appropriate response would be something along the lines that this does not get into this level of detail for the OSRP does not get into this level of detail. This specific the prioritized plan will be addressed through development, because I think the goal and the objective really call for creating, establishing those metrics to be able to determine, what does it mean for a beach to be overused or inappropriately used. So I think it's fine just to say that is something that needs further study, further development. Like, the whole point is to better understand what that actually means and define what it means.
Yeah.
At least that's the way that I read it from the way that the objective is listed.
This is Dan.
Yeah,
May-
Dan.
It seems to me, I was struggling with what this commentary exactly was getting at, and nowhere is it says, but nowhere is the investment decision process mapped out. And I would think that means the council's annual appropriations process at one level, and then at a second level would be the spending discretion within a department to the extent that they have any to respond to whatever problems are identified in the plan or outside of the plan. And that does, to me, seems beyond the scope of this. This is a plan. This is a strategic plan, not a tactical, not an execution plan. But maybe Greg could weigh
I think
in.
you just hit it on the head, Dan. I think, it's beyond the scope of the level of detail of this planning effort. I mean, each one of these things, you have a list now of potential priority actions, and you're still going to go through another process to pick which one moves forward. And investment strategy is very complex, whether there's potential, some of these actions are low cost human capital, and others are dollars and cents, which may be city funded, grant funded, or private donation even. So I think it's a little too detailed of a thing to be able to even provide at this point, as it's identifying actions that still yet have to be acted on and prioritized.
Great. Okay, so I think we're on nowhere in the plan do I read about developing a plan to create alternate revenue streams, non-tax based, to go directly to open space and offset the costs of investments. For instance, the new online system for beaches is smart. I would imagine improves collections for beaches, but are there other things we could be doing at the beaches, parks to increase transactions, after hours collections, parking improvements, etc.? Alternative energy sources, wind, solar, etc., within our open space and public buildings, etc. And then there's a link to a report by McKinsey. This seems like a follow-up to the last one. Is it very similar, or is that sort of a part two?
I think it's the same thing, where it's maybe just a little bit too detailed to what is for the plan itself.
Yeah.
So
Dan,
I'm embarrassed that I don't know this, but does beach revenue go into the general fund, or is it earmarked specifically for Parks and Recreation?
It's not earmarked.
Right.
It goes into the general fund.
Okay.
It's outside of the scope, but an interesting suggestion. Thank you for your comment. I mean, I think, dedicating funds to different activities is, that's what everybody's looking for, whatever their interests might be. They would always love to see funding to support it. And it's not an unusual thing to try to create, some sort of potential enterprise fund, user fees for a particular resource, so that resource can be invested in and supported. So it's a good suggestion, but again, it probably a little bit down the road.
Yeah, I highlighted goal 3, objective 3E4, which talks a little bit about I think increasing user fees or finding additional streams of revenue to fund park improvements. And I also just noted the list of potential funding sources that's listed further in the plan, whether it's grant funding or CPA or ways to pool money to make necessary improvements.
Mhm. Great.
I did take a peek at the report. It was very interesting, but again, I think some of the actions that were highlighted or suggested in that report fall outside the scope of this particular plan.
Yeah. Great. Oh, this one seems good. A quick win might for ADA compliance might be to invest in a pilot to purchase 1 or 2 beach wheelchairs so people who have difficulty walking or who cannot walk can enjoy fullness of the beach experience. The access mats only go so far. I know this is very specific and not really something you would include in a strategic plan, just a suggestion. So how do we respond to that?
Again, I thought this was, I'm sorry.
Let's just thank you for your suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I thought an appropriate place to make this recommendation would be in the ADA assessment. In the summary, we list where we're doing specific sites. So we're talking about the beaches, and it's not mandatory. It's not something that is saying that the city has to commit to, but it simply suggests or recommends, the city may want to consider purchasing beach wheelchairs to increase accessibility at some of the beaches.
Yeah. That's great.
Just a quick question related to this. So it could be a recommendation as an outcome of our ADA compliance survey. And it just brings me, Greg or Gemma, will there be anyone from DPW involved in our surveys?
Yeah, I definitely think I want to try to loop Mike in. He has a lot of knowledge of, the public properties or someone from public works staff.
Great, thank you.
They do make investments periodically. Obviously, the list is very long, but having their involvement and experience, they know where there's trouble points as well. So.
Great. I like this objective a lot. I would recommend exploring after hours payment methods. It's been my observation that the parking lots are chaotic after 4 p.m. when the attendants leave. Why not pilot a gate with a payment mechanism, app, scanner, etc., to be used when the attendant is not there at 1 or 2 beaches? This would mean changing the sticker system a bit so stickers could open the gate, but I would imagine this will help with misuse, overuse of the beaches and capture more revenue. Thank you for your comment.
Under advisement.
I do remember during the city council meeting when they were explaining this program that there were some people that commented on some enhancements, and I think that the feeling of the committee was, let's get this thing off, let's get this thing going. And there can be some other refinements to it, like what people asked, like what happens if somebody leaves early, can you resell that space a second time? And I think they just talked about getting this program off the ground, and the enhancements can be done to it later. So something just I heard during that meeting.
So is there another forum into which we can forward this, this idea? So that, you know, whether it's to the council or is there a, you know, I'm just not sure who's going to make those modifications in the future or contemplate them. And how do we help get this idea in front of those people?
I mean, I think it could be forwarded to the administration and public works. I mean, they stood the program up and clearly there's a lot of options of how to approach it, and really seeing how it functions. You know, need some data to see how it performs before you make modifications. So
Right.
I think that's a good idea to forward that suggestion.
Is there a parking enforcement officer for the city?
Parking is monitored by the police department.
Okay. And I don't know if I don't recall this in the research that I've done, but I also don't know if there's been like a recent parking study done in the city or something that's coming up. Maybe that would be somewhere to like also push or suggest something like this.
I think beaches are fairly unique and specific, and 12 months, maybe 9 months out of, 9 weeks out of the summer, it's, you know, an issue. But I think the administration of public works is where it belongs for now.
Yep, Dan.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I have to leave the meeting at this time. If I may, I do know that the next two, I read the comments for the next two commenters, and the first one seems very much directed at Greg. And the second one, if I recall, was someone seeking greater specificity and additional species included in our kind of the wildlife of Cape Ann. And I would support those inclusions. They seemed sensible to me. But again, I apologize for having to leave the meeting early, and I really want to thank everyone for their work.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dan.
All right,
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Dan. Heidi, I had a quick, I mean, I don't know, like what the, like, I guess personally, I don't really love the idea of like charging after hours or for the beach parking. I guess just for the record, like I wouldn't really want to forward that to anyone, just because I kind of like the old school. it's nice. Like I don't think we need like automated gates and things like that. So I guess just for the record. But
I agree with you, Liam. I don't think that it doesn't seem to be chaotic. That's my opinion, but this person might have had a different experience, and yeah, so. And we can also forward it with, you know, just because we forward it doesn't mean that we recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's just a neutral. You're trying to send it to the right place for people to respond to.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be lots of suggestions after the end of the summer of what should be done
Sure.
differently.
yeah, I'm sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you for your
absolutely.
comment. The committee has taken has taken your suggestion into consideration and will forward it to the DPW administration, who handles this particular system, the gate system that's currently in place.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so as Dan said, it's actually like the next 4 comments are directly kind of aimed at the planning board, and there is concern expressed about parks and open space, but I feel like this is misdirected. I feel like some of the comments are a bit misdirected, or don't necessarily align with like the intentions or the goals, the overall goals of the plan. But those are just my thoughts.
Yeah.
if we're talking about forwarding things, can we say that we're forwarding these concerns to the planning board?
I think that's a good suggestion. I do think there is one specific to the methodology for the Park Serve tool that was used that you might be able to address. But I also would just, I mean, considering, even though my name's misspelled, but that's okay. The second G in my name is silent, as I always say. You know, I think, you know, clearly there are different constituencies. There's different needs in the community. A lot of people would love to see a lot of spaces preserved, and that takes a lot of time, energy, and often money to do so. And we have rules and regulations for what you can do with your property as a private property owner. And there's clearly tension for needs for housing. So I don't think, you know, my response to these comments, and I appreciate them very much, because there's no question that a lot of what was proposed over the last year was about trying to increase the housing stock in Gloucester. And that means in some cases, existing green space, and I say green, or I should say greenfield, potentially being converted to development for housing. I don't think the planning board, you know, is not aware of how special this place is, and also supporting preservation projects and conservation projects. And there's also some comment about floodplain construction. And if anybody's interested, at the last planning board meeting, we've introduced some potential zoning amendments related to regulating those areas. And the state is also taking a hard look at whether or not there should be additional residential development in some of our highest hazard areas. So I appreciate the comments. You know, everyone, I think, feels their neighborhood is special, and it is, and would love to see the spaces that they potentially use that they don't own to stay and remain as green space. So, I mean, I don't need to defend the planning board. I think, you know, they're all folks that live in the community, care about the community, and care about open space as well. This plan will be forwarded to them for their review and comment as well. And again, in their actions that they take, I think they often are doing exactly what they should be, looking at the balance of community needs, which are both open space and housing, and also economic development. So that's my little response to that. But again, thank you for the comments. We can certainly forward them to the planning board as well for them to consider. But I think it's, you know, the process of presenting a potential change to land use is never an easy one. And we, you know, certainly heard a lot of response to, you know, folks don't want to see a lot more development in the community. And the challenge is, how do you meet community needs without that happening? Because it's definitely a crunch for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Any additional thoughts?
Any other comments from the committee members on this slate of comments by the commenter? I guess their name is on there. It's public record at this
Yep.
point. Yeah. So any other comments or things we need to clarify? Okay.
Right. And in my opinion, the last few comments are pretty straightforward. They're minor edits. And for most of what was suggested, I have no issue with incorporating those edits. They were even nice enough to go ahead and actually wordsmith rather than just throw a bunch of words at me. So I think it's easy to kind of work some of these comments into the plan.
Yes, I agree. I feel like it's a comprehensive list. And I think the rationale that it demonstrates our biodiversity as a unique coastal community bordered by woodlands, swamps, And I think that does make us unique. And then the addition of the, oh, well, we've got the Osprey information, and also the, let's see, snowy owls. Yeah, I think it's great and important to include that. And that can just be added in, is that correct? That we can?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this commenter actually provided wording, so
Okay,
makes it really easy to kind of tuck
So
it in.
I just have one comment. I think it was the first one, just on commercial fishing port. The catchphrase that I've heard for as long as I've been in Gloucester's America's oldest seaport. And I don't know, mincing back and forth between commercial fishing or fishing port. I don't know if it has the same impact, but that's what I've seen most places is just America's oldest seaport.
I don't understand the difference of fishing port. Is that, oh, it's just like fishing for sustenance versus commercial fishing?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
At least that's what we tout on our city website, that we're the oldest seaport.
Yep. Yeah.
Because it was obviously fishing a big piece of it, but there was a lot of other commerce.
Yeah. Any other comments on the comments about nature, species? And there was actually something about, what was the last one about? Oh, safe routes to school. This one was a little bit different. Wasn't just about species, but safe routes to school program priorities should be for the areas surrounding the new veteran school. It's not included here. So how can we, is that something that we can include as a priority? I know I don't know what safe routes to schools we've done with veteran school. I know we did, O'Malley has used that, but is that something that we can forward to, or I don't know what we do, just say prioritize safe routes to school for, particular elementary school, or would that just be, part of our priorities is with the building of, let's see. Oh,
I
here
think
it is.
I
Okay.
think it's as simple as just adding
Oh,
the
good.
locations they called out to
Yep.
this particular objective.
And it
Yes.
says here, yeah, prioritize Riverdale neighborhood access to the O'Malley School and Field and the new veteran school. I don't know what it's going to be called, but new school at
New combined East Gloucester Veteran School.
beautiful. Yeah, that seems like an easy fix.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that's it in terms of submitted comments from the
Okay.
public.
Great. Thank you, Courtney, for typing up and also reading.
No problem at all. I'm happy to make these quick revisions, like I said, and as soon as I get additional comments from DCS, you'll get them as soon as I get them.
Okay. Okay. So looking back at our agenda, we have, let's see. So next steps is, I think that I put that item on there sort of with the timeline of what do we do with this plan, and say for, our July meeting, or like, when are we meeting next and for what? And so that was kind of what I meant with this, is it's like, are we still we're prioritizing the plan, getting it accepted, and then based on the plan, we say, okay, this is what we're going to do. That's my understanding. And I guess I just wanted to articulate that in our group here. Does that sound right, Greg and Courtney?
So what I see as next steps is definitely getting the assessment done,
Mhm.
and having that wrapped up. And then again, getting that comment letter back from the state. I'll share it with you. There will more than likely be homework for me and then homework for you. There may be some things that I asked the committee to work on. I think in the last comment letter I got for another municipality, one of the comments was to revise the vision statement. So that was something that I tasked the committee with while I worked on some other things. And so those are the next two major steps. Usually with that first comment letter, the municipality receives conditional approval of the draft plan, which means the city is then eligible to apply for any grants that are available through DCS. And then the understanding is that the funding wouldn't actually be awarded until the city had a finished plan.
Okay. And I know that there's one grant I saw that the deadline was July 15th. And I thought, oh, we'll miss that, but that will be for next year. Or so, just in looking at some things that were available, there was a deadline for July 15th. So maybe next year. Maybe next year. Okay, so I guess moving on, we need to make some decisions about minutes review. I know Mark had a question about getting our old minutes changed up to PDFs and then uploaded to the website. So that's something I believe that Shelley can help us with. And I can follow up with that so that we're good with the minutes that we have typed up in a format in that PDF. Do we have minutes just from the June 8th meeting? Do we have those? That's what Dan provided? Is that correct?
So yeah, Dan provided, I uploaded it onto the Google Drive and
Okay.
a couple, and also I did two other ones that were backlogged as well. So there are 3 sets of minutes on the Google Drive that we could
Okay.
review tonight
Okay.
if we wanted
yeah.
to.
Right. And did somebody else need to leave early? I just want to be mindful of that. I didn't.
Quorum.
Oh, Courtney needed to leave early?
If there are no additional questions for me, I'm happy to stay, but
Rather go.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why I'm thinking that based on our agenda, does anybody have other questions or clarifications needed for Courtney?
Not I.
No,
Okay, terrific.
and like I said, I'll be in touch with Gemma, and we'll get everything worked out for Monday. So I hope to see as many of you as possible at some point throughout the day.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Courtney.
Okay, take care. Okay, and so I'm also just thinking, mindful of the time, I would be happy to do our minutes and also let's see. Should we schedule our next meeting, or what? I'm feeling a little bit confused about what we should do. Should we just go for it and then give Gemma and Greg dismiss them because they don't really need to be here for that, or what do you think?
Well, one thing that might make sense is to think about a meeting date.
Yep.
So I'm playing conservation agent at the moment. So the 1st and 3rd, actually not for next month, but the 20th, there'll be a commission meeting and I will probably be at that. And you've been traditionally meeting on Wednesdays. I'm trying to think and be mindful of, we don't know when the comment is going to come back from DCS. So it may make sense unless there's something administrative that you need to do, like if you want to review more minutes, that's something that might be able to conduct it with, obviously without us, but we can set up a meeting for you. And then maybe we look to maybe the second week in August. Hopefully at that point, we would have heard back. So if you wanted to schedule one administrative meeting, and in the event that anything comes in the interim, we can augment that agenda, but then plan for, seeing where we are from a comment perspective that second week in August, if that makes sense.
Okay, so, and shall we stick with 6 o'clock or 5:30 better for people? I'm either one, because I'm off right now. So anybody have an opinion, or 5:30 or 6?
I prefer 5:30, but. if it-
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll just always hold you guys at 5:30.
yeah. Okay, so 5:30, and we'll say, I'm just looking June, so the 4th is the 27th, is that correct? 7/27,
Yep.
and that would be an admin, and then we'll say 2 weeks later, or that would put you. Well,
Yeah, I think,
person then, so,
I don't think we have any conflicts with that the 20. Oh, actually, Gem and I will be at a meeting, most likely at a meeting the 27th.
okay. But
So
that
if
would-
that's the administrative one, we could
Yep.
probably get that set up for you.
Okay, terrific.
And
Great.
then the 10th, potentially for revisiting the plan.
Okay. Great.
August 10th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, to revisit plan. Okay,
And if you can be flexible, I mean, if anything comes in and we can find a time, if Courtney comes on Monday, says, hey, I got the letter, then, maybe we'll try to juggle a little bit with dates, but I think that's probably a good idea to set a few out.
mhm. Okay, so we are definitely taking things all out of order. But I would love to at least approve the minutes from last. I mean, if we have time and the energy or the stamina to do the 3 sets that we have with the members, I would be happy to do that. Although screen sharing, I think that was a problem for me last month. And I'm wondering if, Liam, were you able to do it last? You were able to do it at our last meeting.
I
So-
was, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Is that a problem with no video, or you can still screen share with no video? How's that?
Should be able to screen share because it's
Okay.
just
I
looking
actually
at the
can.
desktop.
Okay, and I can do it if he can't. I'm willing. I have it up as well, the meeting agendas. I have the Google Drive up right now too.
Oh,
so either
perfect. Okay,
If you have it up, Mark, then you're welcome to do it.
one. Okay, right.
right, but that means he needs to be, oh, great. So who makes the co-hosts? A host? Yeah. Gemma
Yeah,
does.
that's us. We can make you,
Perfect.
we'll shift your responsibility.
Okay, great. So is this something that you need to stay on, or would you like to?
No, as long as you're just going to do roll call of approval, I think you should be all set. We could we'll make a couple of you co-hosts. So just in the event that anything goes awry and you need to come back in.
Okay,
And then otherwise we'll see you maybe towards the end of the month or the beginning of August.
or
and-
at Fiesta,
Oh, actually, no, or Monday
Monday, yeah,
after Fiesta and probably at Fiesta. So,
okay, great.
okay.
Okay, thank you so much for your help.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Gemma.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let us,
Well, I can, my share screen button is green. I guess I'll try clicking it.
okay, great.
And it looks like it's letting me do it. Right here. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, so we have the meeting minutes. I might have to move this out of the way. Okay, so let me go to, let me start with the spreadsheet. Thank you, Liam, for it's over now. Wow. Okay, so all the ones with the X's, we approved last time, and I guess the action there is to get Shelley to convert these to PDF, and maybe do we pull them off of our draft site at some point? We can just, once they're officially copied and loaded on the website, I guess we don't have to have 1,000 sets of minutes in our folder. Maybe might help clean up the folder, but so we can do 12:8 and 12:29, two of them that I did, and then the one Dan did. We did not assign a minutes taker today, something we forgot to do. But let's go with that. So was it 12? 12. I'm gonna move this thing over again. 12:8. These are not, and this another thing I don't like about this too is that there's no particular order because of the way their naming convention is. So here's the two that I did right here. So I guess we can do these. Start with these, and open fast. And move this thing out of the way again. I'll make it smaller. But okay. So here are the minutes from the recording. There were no absent members, and we want. And again, I just sort of preface. I sent out the other day too the minutes requirements that Shelley gave us, and again, it's not to have to do verbatim every comment made. We have to cover the major topics discussed, list any presentations that were used or videos that were used during the meeting, and as well as decisions that were made. Now, I took the liberty of, in an open working meeting similar to the one today, for example, do we have to comment on all the deliberations made to get to the conclusion that we got to today, for example, saying agreeing to include something or not. So basically, I did not, and I don't think that violates the rules of this, right? So basically, we reviewed feedback and based on our own feedback based on the track changes. So that's really the scope of this.
Yep.
I believe there was no public comments made either on this particular one. So, and just some comments made about this plan is likely to be active for 10 years, even though the plan only references 7. And then we did have a separate discussion on the map sets and some just information on the map sets, and that's also. Really, this was very much a working meeting to go over, if you remember, and the next one's very similar. We just basically had a working meeting to scrub and wordsmith section 8. So that's really all this was. And we decided on some meeting dates, and then we made a motion to adjourn. So that's really the scope of it.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Heidi, we no longer have a quorum.
Did we lose Dave?
No, Dave's here.
So
So
we have 4 people.
Isn't,
Oh,
don't we
okay.
have 5? We have 5.
Oh,
5,
great.
actually. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
move.
Okay, a second.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? I guess
Aye.
I have to do a roll call I think for these, I have to do a roll call to approve. So member Poulin, yes?
Yeah, I don't think we did that last time. I think we did a, Greg
could-
said a roll call, but last meeting we didn't do a roll call. We just said all in favor and no one
Okay.
objection.
I think technically you're supposed, anything that's approved, there needs to be a roll call.
Okay.
Okay, then let's we'll do that now, starting now. So to approve the minutes of December 8th, 2021, member Poulin,
Approve.
member Mann,
Aye.
member Sargent,
Yes,
member Anastasia Murphy,
yep,
And Member Wakeman, yes. The minutes are approved. And I am taking notes of who made that motion. So I will do the minutes for this meeting here. So second was, actually, who seconded that? Liam.
I
Yeah.
seconded that.
Okay, thank you. I thought so. Great. Okay. And now we have minutes for
Next
December.
one is, yeah, the next one is December 29th.
Okay,
It was pretty much, open it up here. There were no absentee members at this one. Staff was Adrian. There was this was because this was the last one of the calendar year of 2021. There was some talk about the reappointments and length of terms and a discussion around that under the business section about did everybody get the notifications and things like that. And then, so Heidi, you opened it up with a public comment period. In this particular case, Jeff Brown read a letter highlighting his concerns about the public input process. And he believes verbal comments made by members of MABC during the survey results are problematic. And we, and so I just have his overview there. And then we went on again to do the same working kind of meeting with the language. At one point, member Liam had to leave, and then we had a conversation about resiliency planning, and then we agreed the next meeting topic would be to review the funding source input. So that was basically the summary there. We decided again on the dates again, agreed on the next couple of dates, and we made a motion.
okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
I motion to approve.
Okay, a
Second.
second. Okay, great. And all in favor? Actually, a roll call vote to approve these minutes. Member Poulin,
Approve.
Member Mann,
Aye.
Member Sargent,
Yes,
Member Anastasia Murphy,
Aye.
and Member Wakeman also approves these minute, or says aye. The minutes are approved.
Okay, and the one that didn't, and no, Dan sent out
Okay,
on email, and I suggested that he convert it to the template. For those that aren't aware, there is a template on the Google Drive, so we can always start from this template if we ever want to, and just save it as a different file. So I believe that there may be one approved minute, and we find it offline and we mark up the spreadsheet, but we may have approved one set of minutes last meeting that were not in this format. We have to just go back, and maybe Shelley will catch that and make a note of it, but that did happen. So I did not take these minutes, so I can't speak to them other than I did read them offline and have no objections. And looks like a motion to adjourn. I don't know if some of the cut and paste. Oh yeah, so this is a list of all the ones that we did with initials of everybody approving the minutes. And then the notes about the ones that were not held, and then we skipped a meeting and things like that. So this should be consistent with the spreadsheet that we updated last week. And it looks like a motion was made to adjourn, and the meeting was closed. So.
okay. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
so move.
I motion to approve.
Okay, so we'll say Liam, second,
Okay.
Noel, and a roll call vote. Member Pullen?
Oh, aye.
Member Mann, aye. Member
Aye.
Poole- Member Mark Poulin, do you approve these minutes?
Approve.
Member Sargent,
Yes,
member Liam Anastasia Murphy. Sorry,
Aye.
and member Wakeman, aye.
11:21,
Okay, great.
9:26.
For some reason, it's not letting me. It says view only, so for some reason, it's not letting me. But after this meeting, I'll go ahead and update the spreadsheet right here. So I'll put Heidi, I'll put your name down for this
Yep.
next one. And just following up on some of the actions, I know there was a conversation earlier from Noel about these 2019 ones. We had the ones that this grouping had no Zoom recordings. This particular one had an interrupted Zoom meeting. And this should be Rich is not here, but this one was just rewatch the Zoom and update. So here's one that we could do. So I will update this before we, I'll probably have to just sign back on or something. And that's where we are with the minutes. And then what we can do, I think, is when these all get posted, you guys can just only have the active ones or whatever in this file. Otherwise, this file will be kind of hard to kind of find things. It'll get cluttered with minutes, but we don't need to keep these drafts, I think, once they're in PDF.
Yeah.
And
So
it may have been-
I will communicate with Shelley and say, now that we have these in here, can you convert them to PDFs and upload them to our website?
Right, and here's a draft.
Yep.
For anybody looking for a draft here. At some point, and I didn't use the draft, somebody was posting drafts with the actual dates of our meetings. So I don't know if that's just somebody did that. It was nice to do that, but and I think it might have been this one. Maybe this one here that is not in the template format. I'll make a note of that on the spreadsheet if that's the case. So I'll know as soon as it opens. Yeah. So April 27th is not in the format, and that's an easy fix. We can just cut.
Yeah.
Right. So April, yeah, that was April 27th. What year? Yeah, we approved that one too. So I'll just make a note that we should go or if that's just something that I don't know if that's something that Shelley could do or whatever, but we did approve one in the format. And that was before I indicated to Dan that we should be using the format. So,
Mhm. Okay,
all right, that's all.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and I do want to, just looking at our agenda, there is a public comment, and I just want to acknowledge Jeff Brown is here. And Jeff, if you're here and you have, we're limiting public comment to 3 minutes. So I'm wondering if you have something to share with the committee at this time. So Jeff, if you can hear me, I'm inviting you to share during public comment period for a time of 3 minutes. And if you can't hear me, or if you've stepped away from your computer, I just want to be on the record as inviting you into this period of public comment. Okay. Okay, there's been no response, and so public comment is closed. And I had one thing to share that's good news. I thought just to share with the group that at O'Malley Middle School, there was a civics project that had to have a local component. And one of the 8th grade projects was improving the sidewalk on Osmond Babson Road for students and baseball players alike to get to and from school. And I made a point of checking in with the student and telling her that that's something that we might be able to partner with, that when there's student oriented work or projects, that has some cachet, or at least maybe not cachet. It has a different meaning coming from a young person who uses that stretch of road and for safety. So I just thought that was exciting to see the work that she did, and to say, maybe we'll have some partners in youth to help improve. So I feel like it's,
Nice to hear.
yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see kids starting some civic awareness and civic engagement. And the mayor and Jill Cahill both came to one of the presentations along with the superintendent of schools. And some of the projects are very lofty, and there's a lot of big goals that were about, littering on the beach, which I do feel like is an issue, but I don't know how that seems like a cultural change, but the safe routes to school or sidewalks at O'Malley seemed like maybe that's something that we could help make happen. So. Okay. Any other new business, or, oh yeah, Mark.
Well, I don't know if it made it to the agenda, but I was going to give an update on a CPC update, but I think with 3 members missing, and we can maybe do that at the next administration meeting, but I can give an update on the CPC projects that are related to open space. And again, they're not approved, but they're eligible. So these are eligible projects under consideration, which I think we can discuss because they're eligible, but they have not been approved or funded, but they are eligible, and there are several open space related ones. And I'm a liaison to a couple of them.
I'd like to hear them.
Yeah, can you hear?
Right. Right now, you want? Well, okay, I'll repeat. So the ones that I'm a liaison to, the Lucy Davis Pathway extension. So that's the pathway that just stops and it turns into a big hill. It turns into a hill you have to climb. So that project.
Stage 4.
Stage 4, yeah. So it's the pathway that goes up. It goes up the hill, and it goes to the cannons, and then it goes over to the welcoming center. So it's sort of 2 elements to it, but it's really one kind of big project because of the scope of work and the regrading and everything. It's kind of something you'd want to do at once. So there's that one, and there is the Nate Ross ball field drainage project, and that's another one that I'm on. And that one is again an eligible project, and it involves putting a drainage system all through the outfield to make that ball field more usable. If you get 2 or 3 days of rain, you can close that field out for a long time. And it might also make it available in the future for multi-use as well. That's not part of the scope of it, but at least having the drainage there means that it could be something of additional uses when it's not a baseball field too. So that's the only real decent full-size ball field in the city, believe it or not. I mean, you have Parisi.
Which one is that?
That's the O'Malley. That's the one at O'Malley.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. So so that's another one. And there's a couple more. I'll go when it's on the agenda next. I'll go through all the ones that are open space. I just mentioned the 2 that I'm liaison to now. I have to kind of read the whole. There's a lot of them. One thing I can say is way more projects in ask than there is money this year. So there'll be some hard decisions that'll have to be made, or some alternate funding things. So there's a lot going on. It's an exciting group. It's run very well. Matt's the chair. We elected a co-chair, Bill Cuff, as a co-chair. So we have a co-chair set up now with that, and we even have a staff person to take minutes. so that helps. So, and yeah, we're meeting next week. We're going through we've got 3 meetings set up over the summer to go through all the projects, let everybody give a presentation so we can ask some more questions. And And, but everything on the table is officially eligible. That was the first round, was eligibility.
Mhm.
And then the next is asking a few more questions, maybe, kind of decide, and then we have to sort of have some hard discussions on what the funding wants to be. So,
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you for that update. And yeah, we'll just put that on we'll put that on the agenda for maybe not the next, well, it could be on the administrative one for.
yeah, if we don't have a lot
When
going
is
on.
when is the administrative one?
727 I captured. Is that
Okay.
right? And then 810 for the other one as a placeholder, but I think both of those are subject to agenda or date changes if they come back. I think we can send it, Courtney comes back with the official letter sooner or something.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. And I'm so glad you're on that committee. I enjoyed my time there as well. Just good group of people. And also, as you said, well-run. And I heard Jamie's back, Jamie Corliss. Is she the staff person?
Yeah, she's the staff person.
Yeah, she's awesome. So,
Right.
yeah, I'm on the record. I'm on the record as saying that. Okay, so if there is not any other business, in the interest of time, I will say thank you for your attention and thoughtful comments as always and work. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of you on Monday for our field work, which I think for some people might be happy to do something, not merely virtually, to be out in the field.
Yeah, I was actually very excited about it until we got the letter from my son's college that we have a 2-day orientation thing. We have to be down there.
Yeah.
I got 2 days I have to be down there. But I will pick up the slack and if we have some outliers that weren't done on Monday, which I can't think that we would get all these done.
No,
I'll gladly go out and visit a few places. Yeah.
great. Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Noel Mann, and a second?
A second.
That was Mark. Okay, and a roll call. All in favor of adjourning, member Poulin? Or I think we have to, wait. Can this one be all in favor? Yeah,
All in favor, I
okay,
think.
good.
I.
All in favor? Aye. And Liam, we can't see you, but
Yeah, I said aye. Sorry about my video. I don't know what's going on.
no worries. No worries. I'm looking forward to an in-person meeting. I don't know when, but I hope that we have that
Soon.
option. So, great. Okay, thank you, everybody.
I just want to say that I have had COVID and I tested negative yesterday.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
It took me 2 weeks. Took me
Yeah,
2
me
weeks
too.
to test negative. I went through a lot of tests.
Wow.
Good
Yikes.
thing I was getting free ones from the government.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm glad there's news. Thank you, Noel, for sharing. And maybe I'll see some of you down around Fiesta because I'm excited that it's back.
I'll be at the finish
Yes.
line tomorrow.
Oh, right. Yes. Terrific. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.